If you listen to my comments, you would have heard me say how amazing our warfighters are.
I heard failure. And the word heard. I heard exactly what you said.
I will tell you how I use the word failure, because I use the word failure to their leaders. You, sir, are the failure.
That happened Tuesday. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth walked into a Senate hearing room and admitted something staggering. The Iran war has already cost $37.5 billion. That's up from $29 billion in mid-May. In 2 months, the price tag jumped by nearly $9 billion. And he was there to ask for $87.6 billion more. While he was testifying, the U.S. bombed Iran for the 10th straight night. Congress never voted on this war. Nobody asked you. And the bill is already climbing past $100 billion, according to leaked Pentagon documents. Let's follow the money. I'm Brandon Mace, and this is Political Lens. Here's what we're breaking down today. 1. The numbers. $37.5 billion spent, $87.6 billion requested, over $100 billion projected, and where that money is actually going. 2. How we got to 10 straight nights of bombing with no congressional vote and no strategy. 3. The Houthi blockade that just opened a second front, and what that means for global oil prices and your wallet. 4. Who's pushing back, who's profiting, and why this war isn't what they're telling you it is. Let's put these numbers in context, because they're designed to wash over you. $37.5 billion. That's more than the $0.5 billion. That's more than the entire annual budget of the State Department. More than we spend on veterans' health care in a year. In 2 months, the Iran war has cost more than what the U.S. government spends on education, housing, and environmental protection combined. Hegseth says $37.5 billion covers operations through September 30th. That's the official number. But CBS News reported Tuesday that sources inside the Pentagon say the real cost is far higher. Leaked Pentagon documents put the figure at over $100 billion when you include repairing damaged bases like the $800 million in damage to U.S. radar systems and air defense networks across the Middle East in just 2 weeks of Iranian counterstrikes. That's $800 million in infrastructure damage before you even count the aircraft they've lost, the munitions they've expended, the troop deployments. Think about what that means. The Pentagon has had over a dozen U.S. military injuries from Iranian strikes that they didn't disclose publicly until reporters forced it out. Here's where it gets interesting. Hegseth went to the Senate asking for $87.6 billion more. Rand Paul, $0.6 billion more. Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, same guy who keeps forcing these conversations nobody wants to have, called that request fiscally irresponsible to Hegseth's face. He pointed out we're $40 trillion in debt and counting.
He was clear in his testimony that they also want $1.5 trillion as the base budget.
Well, that's right.
So we currently spend $1 trillion. He wants $1.5 trillion. That's $500 billion increase, plus another, paltry $37 billion on top of the $500 billion. No one in the history of the country has ever asked for this much money. This is more money that you can't even print it that fast. All right, so it threatens our country. The biggest threat we have right now is our debt.
A Republican senator, during a Republican administration's war, telling the defense secretary to his face that the war is bankrupting the country. That's not dissent from the left. That's the fiscal conservative wing saying, we can't afford this. I need you to understand something. This war has no congressional authorization, no declaration of war, no vote. The last time Congress formally declared war was 1942. Every conflict since, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and now Iran, has been waged without Congress doing its one constitutionally mandated job. That is not a bug. That is the system working exactly as designed.
Monday's strikes marked the 10th straight day of airstrikes against Iran since the memorandum of understanding struck between the U.S. and Iran fell apart.
The U.S. has bombed Iran for 10 consecutive nights, and the escalation isn't stopping. On Monday, Trump threatened to bomb what intelligence reports call Pickaxe Mountain, a suspected Iranian nuclear facility, very heavily. That language, very heavily. Not a strategic objective, not a measured response, very heavily. Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, asked Hegseth point blank at Tuesday's hearing about Trump restarting the Iran war. Her word, restarting. Because let's be clear about what happened. The U.S. pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. Sanctions crushed Iran's economy. Tensions escalated. Provocations happened on both sides. And now we're 10 nights into a bombing campaign that nobody in Congress voted to authorize. Hegseth was asked how long this war will last. His answer? He wouldn't give a timeline. When Senator Ossoff pressed him on what the actual U.S. strategy is, what victory looks like, what the end game is, Hegseth said Iran is weakened, but could not define what success means. That is the Secretary of Defense, testifying under oath, and he cannot tell you what winning looks like. On Monday, Yemen's Houthis, who are backed by Iran, announced a naval blockade of Saudi Arabia. This is not a symbolic gesture. The Bab al-Mandab Strait, which the Houthis are now threatening, is one of the world's most critical oil shipping routes. Saudi oil exports flow through it. Saudi Arabia immediately condemned the blockade. Al Jazeera reports that global oil markets are already pricing in the disruption. The Institute for the Study of War put out a special report saying the blockade could result in an expansion of the shipping crisis in the Middle East. In plain English, your gas prices are about to go up. And they're going up because a war Congress never authorized just opened a second front. Here's what they don't want you connecting. The war in Iran and the Houthi blockade are not separate stories. Iran backs the Houthis. The U.S. is bombing Iran. Iran's proxies are now squeezing Saudi oil exports. That drives up global energy prices. And guess who benefits when oil prices spike? American energy companies and the defense contractors supplying this war. Let's follow the money. The Pentagon has already sunk billions into restocking munitions, missiles, bombs, drone systems that were expended in the first 10 nights of strikes. Those contracts go to the same 5 defense contractors who have dominated U.S. military spending for decades. The Trump administration's budget proposal for next year already includes over $1 trillion in defense spending. Not total federal spending, just defense. Over $1 trillion. And the Iran war is being used to justify every dollar of it. Reddit threads this week are filled with the same question. How does the U.S. have money for Iran war but can't wipe out student loans? One commenter on r/economy put it simply. Think of the defense contractors' R&D budget.
$5 trillion.
Stop bombing our children in Iran and Palestine. This is illegal.
Mr. Secretary, please
Don't want this.
suspend until order is restored in the hearing room. We will begin the timing clock since you've been interrupted twice.
The reality is, war is a business model. And this particular war is generating revenue for exactly the people who funded the politicians who made it possible. That is not a conspiracy theory, that's public record. Let's zoom out because this is bigger than Iran. This is bigger than $37.5 billion. We are watching the same playbook that gave us Iraq and Afghanistan. No formal declaration of war, no exit strategy, a Pentagon that can't tell you what winning looks like, and a defense industry that makes more money the longer the war drags on. Whether you're MAGA, independent, or progressive, this is not a Democrat issue, not a Republican issue. This is an American issue. Your tax dollars are funding a war you never voted for. And as Rand Paul said to Hegseth's face, We are $40 trillion in debt and counting. Drop your take in the comments below, because this is exactly the kind of conversation they don't want you having. We will see you on the next video right here on Political Lens.